we haven't really scratched the surface of where Lex is. And some of these Lexbots or some of the chatbots out there, that's all the functionality that you're ever going to get out of it. With Amazon releasing new large language models and their own sort of chat GPT setup, we're about to see what Lex really can do.
Welcome to Bots and Bytes, the ultimate tech talk podcast. Join us as we journey from the realm of AI to the boundless expanse of the cloud. We'll explore the cutting-edge technologies that are reshaping customer experiences and driving businesses to new heights. Prepare to be inspired, informed, and intrigued as we delve into the world of innovation and transformation. I'm your host, Jess Vigorito, and this is Bots and Bytes, a GTS production where tech dreams become reality. Let's dive in. Bringing up banking, and I have to admit, I'm slow to accept new technology. I don't have my banking app on the phone. It makes me really nervous to have my banking app on the phone. I never electronically deposit checks. And I do have a lot of my peers who tease me about it. And they're like, this is actually more secure than walking your check into the bank. I don't understand how it's more secure than walking my check into the bank. So I still go to the ATM machine, deposit my checks. Can you take just a moment? And I know we're kind of off topic a little bit here, but take a moment and explain to me how the app on your phone, how that chat, how this automatic process of taking a picture and uploading it, how is that more secure than me walking it into the bank and handing it to another human or putting it into the ATM machine?
Well, the added detail in there is that there's a human element in there rather than a computer element. With an app to your phone, it has to pass certain protocols, especially if it's an iPhone app. Apple is notorious for their security, and that is one thing that they stand upon. Android's not so much the same there when it comes to their security, but they do a really good job as well. You have to pass certain protocols in order for your app to be there. With banking apps especially, they have regulations that are required for their apps to pass certain things. And that's what makes it so secure. Those requirements require the entire connection when you're connected to your app to be very secure. And by very secure, I mean not a lot of people can punch their way into it. A really good hacker can get into it, but he'd have to know some protocols and be really good at it. But for your normal person, they're not going to be hacking your bank account through that bank app. The reason why it's so secure is that when you take a picture with your phone and you upload it, it doesn't save said picture to your phone. It takes that and it uploads it right to their server, and it's no longer on your phone. It's on their server. And their servers are all secured with high-end, very highly tested, very durable security on their end. And it goes through their security protocols, and then it scans your document and tells you everything you need. So all your check, all the information, all that sorts of stuff. But the moment that it reads anything that has personal information, such as the bank account number or the routing number, those immediately get blacked out. And that's because they're redacted. That's the technology redacting sensitive information from the check. Even your name will probably be redacted. So their side, from the agent side of things, if an agent went and pulled up your check, which they can pull up a copy of it when you use your app and deposit it. They're not going to be able to see certain things. It's going to cut off portions of the image that are redacted, and that's how it stays secure. They can't see anything. Agents won't be able to actually see that. But for the most part, if they're working at a bank, they had thorough background checks for them to be there to begin with. I mean, most tellers at banks don't tell you what the process was to become a teller. And that can become a tedious, time-consuming process itself, because you have to go through a certain amount of background checks, and you have to be able to you can't be convicted of any money crimes at all to be a bank teller.
Right. Well, I should hope so.
Yeah.
That's kind of the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Here,
but that's, like I said, that's what makes it more secure. Is that you are literally uploading a photo of the check and then the human element is taken out of it because the human doesn't have any process. It's
So when I'm keeping the paper check and it's floating around, it has all these possibilities that other people have direct access to my banking
That's
information.
why they say that once you
Mhm.
do these checks, like once you've deposited them online and they're in your bank account, it's cleared your bank, you can shred the check.
I think you usually, like, I've submitted a check digitally before myself. Usually they'll suggest that you wait and you keep it in your records for about 30 days, but after that then they directly
Yep.
recommend shredding the check and
Yeah,
getting rid of it.
because
So,
that way you don't have a paper copy and nobody can touch it.
That
mhm.
makes sense. Thanks for my little digression here and explaining that to me. In what ways do Lexbots, we've kind of talked about this a little, but let's dive in a little bit more. So, in what ways do Lexbots assist contact center agents, obviously saving a lot of time and money? How do they enhance agent productivity and efficiency?
I did touch a bit before on them being able to provide the captured data to agents for simple, repeatable captures that the agent would usually need. So when a caller first gets to this agent, they would instantly have access to all the information they need to do some processing, confirm with the caller what they need and what they're wanting to do, go finish it up real quick, and be done in less than 5 minutes with that customer's request. Obviously, that's just one example, but it's a very good one, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, it's that kind of stuff. Being able to provide just that type of information. Depending on how you have the bot configured as well, you can have it set up to help provide some recommendations for the agent or just additional information on the customer's sentiment. Mike discussed earlier how the natural language processing can actually listen to the customer's sentiments, see how they're feeling, if they're feeling very frustrated at the time because they just couldn't quite get the bot to understand what they were saying, what they wanted. That sentiment score can be passed on to an agent so that they can see this customer's in a particularly bad mood right now. You may want to be cautious how you handle them or just be extra polite. Or you can see that they're in a great mood and they can start off all, hi, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and nice and positive. So it allows the agent to go straight into the conversation with the caller, already getting sort of an idea as to how they
It
should
makes
handle it.
understanding the caller's journey so much easier. The way the caller comes in and it just allows you to know what goes on. Some of the solutions that we provide here at GTS, that's something that we can implement as well, where your agent can actually see it right here, right on their screen. They can see the sentiment score of how the call is
Mhm.
going. They can see the caller's journey of how the journey comes through, and they can understand and make it easier for you to get that customer in, fix what their issue is, and get them on their way and taken care of, making them happy.
So the
Yep.
sentiment score that you both are speaking about, I think that drastically has impacted customer loyalty and brand perception for consumers and
Mhm.
businesses. That's really, I think, a relevant and important aspect of a Lexbot to have is that ability to not just answer in black and white, but really analyze, hey, this
Mhm.
this person is frustrated right now. We are at risk of losing
Yep.
this customer, so that when that human does pick up, they can make sure that they handle that call very
Mhm.
carefully with a lot of empathy to ensure that the brand perception remains high and customer loyalty remains
Yep,
high.
yep, and that's how.
Mhm.
That's
We can even use that sentiment score to route to specific agents. Say if there's some specific agents that are especially talented in dealing with upset customers, or say if we wanted to directly send them to a supervisor rather than putting them through an agent that may not be able to help them very well with them being so upset. So we can, before they even hit an agent, use some logic to route them to the correct person
Mhm.
for their current
And
mood.
that's how Lex
it's
uses it. Mind blowing. Yep. With contact lens, Lex, and Amazon Poly, you get everything from the conversation that you need, and it helps you so much.
So as these Lexbots, you said we hadn't even scratched the surface yet, but as they continue to evolve, are there any new features that you know of or advancements that we're likely to see?
Well, Lexbots also work with Alexa. If you have anything in your smart home and you're talking to Alexa, you're talking to a Lexbot. So that's something that we're still kind of scratching the surface on. Like a question and answering services, those are big things. The biggest one that a lot of companies want is just a fully functional chatbot or personal assistant, or you see it on pretty much every web page nowadays. This is like every company wants you to be able to
Mhm.
just go in and be able to type up questions right for the bot and ask it questions and have it return the responses you need, rather than it being something that's so difficult that you'll have 10 minutes of a conversation with the bot and get nowhere, and then just ask to file a ticket, and then end up having to file a ticket and go through that whole process as well. The cool thing about Lex is that we can streamline that. We'll make it all in one, where the Lexbot will automatically create the ticket for you if you say you want to create a ticket. If you need something done, these Lexbots can help you and your business, not just on your website, but in your contact center. They can also help you with more than just your contact. You can use it as just a chat bot. You can create them to do pretty much anything, to have a conversation with anything. That's where we're at. We haven't scratched the surface yet. Like I said, with these new large language models and Amazon Bedrock coming, that's Amazon's machine learning languages, and they're going to get better and better, and it's going to add more and more features to Lex as it gets further along.
So, are there any potential downsides then or risks associated with heavy reliance on Lexbots in customer interactions? It sounds like we are only scratching the surface. So, we will, as time moves forward, become more and more reliant on them. So, are there those potential downsides, risks? And if so, how can businesses mitigate them?
There are some risks, like Carter was discussing earlier. It's just basically the functionality of the Lexbot. So understanding, it's still learning how humans talk. And some people have different accents. Some people come from different portions of the country. There are some different dialects. There are people from New York have a different accent than people from Texas. There are people, from around the world, even. That's where your biggest the biggest problem is going to come into is that how the bot understands what's being told to it, whether it be in English, in Spanish, in Cantonese, Japanese, whatever language that you need it to be in, which Amazon Lex supports many languages. That's where the biggest issue I feel lies with Amazon Lex is the understanding of it, and how businesses can make that, how they can change that is by adding certain translations. You can add custom dictionaries. You can make the Lexbot have a higher threshold of understanding. So if they say a statement that doesn't meet a certain level of a certain threshold level, the bot won't give that answer, or it may error out. And you can increase that or you can lower it down so that it'll understand a little bit more or understand a little bit less. The fine tuning of a bot just kind of comes from how many times you use it, test it, try it, and move forward with it.
I think some of the best advice we could offer a business just getting started in Lex would be know your customer base. Try to build out your bots so that it can handle the main languages your customers usually use. Like, say we're dealing with a school district with primarily just a few smaller languages, primarily English, some Spanish, and maybe some other additional languages. Then make sure you have the bot ready to handle both of those languages, and keep an eye out post deployment for sort of the reporting of that. So how well the Lexbot is doing, what its missed intents are. Like Mike says, they have that confidence threshold, and for every time the Lexbot understands something, it gives a score to each one of its own understanding. So long as it passes the threshold, it'll give the response. If it doesn't pass the threshold, it won't give the response. And you can set up reporting for that in order to have full views of what intents are failing, and you can also see what the Lexbot is understanding from the customer when it's failing, so what it's getting instead. And you can then go make updates yourself, or you can set up a solution to automatically just sort of update this Lexbot and allow it to understand more, thus helping with assist more languages and intonations and just ways of speaking.
Always learning. That bot will always be learning if you can if we automate it. So
yeah, I just wanted to add some recent real world experience that I had with this. I live in Central Florida, so everything here is in Spanish and in English. Every document, every form, every website. And I do not know Spanish at all, except for a few keywords. So when I tried to interact on Facebook Marketplace, it was always a struggle because really about 50% of the interactions on Facebook Marketplace are with people whose first language is Spanish and they know English about as well as I know Spanish, which is not enough to have a conversation together. So we try to engage back and forth, and it's half the time what would happen is the conversation would just end. One person, do you speak English? Do you speak Spanish? No, we're done. Or sometimes we try to work it through with Google Translate, and try to figure out, can we do this? And just recently on Facebook, within the last month probably, what started happening is this little button pops up on the screen when I get a message in Spanish, and it says, would you like to translate this? And it says, from Spanish to English. And yes, I would. And it perfectly translates what that person is trying to say to me. And then I type my response in English, and it says, would you like to translate this from English to Spanish? Yes. And all I see on my end is English, 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 English. And all the other person is seeing on their end is Spanish, Spanish, Spanish. It is making transactions that wouldn't otherwise happen, or that would be very clunky. It's making them simple and easy and seamless. And it's just improving that level of communication. And even like not only on Facebook, it also pops up on my text messages now. If someone says something like no bueno, it pops up on my phone. Hey, do you want to translate? I'm like, hey, I actually know that. Thank you very much. I don't need it translated.
Yeah. So that's the cool thing about Lex is that we can also incorporate it with those third-party integrations. So you can actually incorporate your Lexbot with your Facebook Messenger, or with your Twilio account, or with your Discord. If you've got kids that are gamers, they love Discord and they use a Discord, you can install a Lexbot onto your Discord to have a chat, and it'll keep track of the bot and all of that for you. So it just comes down to how far you want to go with Lex, and what the actual like requirements are for your solution. For somebody who's worked in the contact center industry for a long time and then coming to building them, I love how they just make things so much simpler, so much easier. If I was the agent on the other side of it and I was able to see it firsthand, how it how the customer was brought right to me without having to argue or fight with a prompt or something along those lines, it would make me feel better, and it would probably make me better at doing my job and be more empathetic to them in their situation, because it was so easy for them to just get right to me and tell me what's going on, and let's see how we can fix it.
Yeah, definitely changing. I can see how this is changing the face of business. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the thing we haven't talked about. How cost effective is this? How does this compare with using traditional customer service models?
Amazon Lex is super cheap. You only pay for the requests that you send and receive. That's it. Those are the only things you pay for. Everything else, it's a pay as you go. It works hand in hand with other Amazon solutions. Lex and Lambda are two solutions that are fairly cheap and very worth it, because they are just a pay as you go, and you only pay for this response or this sent response. That's all you pay for.
Additionally, if you think about it from a management perspective, when you use Lex in your contact center and you're able to handle a lot of simpler requests, these repetitive queries or issues, or just these self-service options primarily through Lex, since that while that saves time for agents as well, generally that means the call volume that goes to agents usually scales down along with that. So that means that companies can scale down how many agents they have to have online at one time, and thus save on operations.
So it sounds like it more than pays for itself. And then not only does it pay for itself, but it actually ultimately saves the organization money. So it's an increase in customer loyalty, satisfaction, and saves money. This is like win-win-win, right?
Across the board. That's why we always are, why we're trying to sell and trying to make sure that our customers understand that Amazon Lex, Amazon Connect, and Amazon Lambda are amazing. They're great, simple tools that are going to save you and your business a lot of money, especially when it comes to your contact center and or your website or however your customers contact you at your business.
So what advice would you give to a business considering implementing Lexbots to optimize their customer interactions and contact center operations? Where should they find out more information about it? Who should they contact?
Definitely reach out to us here at GTS.
They have lots of documentation that's for anyone to access. You even need an account to access it. You can freely look up Lex documentation or how to build a Lexbot, and generally the AWS documentation will pop up and give you the basics all the way up to some more complex features of Lex. It'll give you generally everything you need to really get started.
Yeah, the URL, is aws.amazon.com/Lex.
Perfect. Make sure we get that in there. And if anyone wants to reach out to GTS, it's hello@globo-tek.com for our listeners. What's the best way for our listeners to connect with each of you?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can check out my profile, Michael Tacker. You can also check me out on twitch.tv/tactohack. That's where I live stream video games. Not to just, selfishly plug, but yeah, that's where you can
selfishly
plug.
Please do. Go right ahead.
I have a Twitch too, but I don't use it very much, so I'll skip past that one. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Carter Stickler.
And you can email me here as well at michael@globo-tech.com. Sorry, my email again.
Yep. Likewise, carter@globotech.com, globo-tek.com.
There we have it, folks. A mind-blowing episode of Bots and Bytes coming to an end. Massive thank you to our fantastic guests, Mike Tacker and Carter Stickler, for sharing their invaluable insights and knowledge with us today. Your expertise has truly been inspiring and so educational. To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this captivating journey through the ever-evolving world of technology. We hope you've been informed, intrigued, and most importantly, inspired to embrace the potential of cutting-edge tech. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss out on any future episodes packed with exciting discussions and expert guests. Until next time, this is Jess V signing off. Stay curious, stay tech savvy, and keep exploring the limitless powers of innovation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Bots and Bytes. To learn more about the topics discussed in this episode, reach out to us at hello@globo-tek.com.